Pronto. Então, seja bem-vindo, todo mundo bem-vindo de volta. Hoje vamos continuar o nosso ciclo sobre inteligência artificial, criatividade e artes, especialmente música. E hoje eu decidi, quase no tempo real, de adicionar um seminário hoje para rever com um pouco mais calma que vimos sobre as técnicas, alguns exemplos, para explicar um pouco melhor e dar algumas dicas adicionais. Porque tem tantas coisas a dizer e 2 horas passa rápido. Talvez hoje eu vou falar de novo em inglês e assim dar um pouco mais amplitude para o público a entender. De qualquer maneira, eu vou falar mais devagar, porque hoje eu tenho menor conteúdo e a ideia é mais rever e complementar um pouquinho. So my name is Jean-Pierre Briot. I'm the coordinator of the cycle of seminars and the chair about AI, chair named Heitor Villa-Lobos, about AI, artificial intelligence, creativity and arts. And it's within the Colégio Brasileiro de Altos Estudos, da UFRJ, was directed by Professor Ana Célia Castro. So it's a pleasure to be back on this cycle again. This will be my last lecture, and there will be other colleagues who will continue to do other seminars. Next week there won't be a seminar, so it will be a free vacation. And then the next week seminar, where will be a seminar by a colleague from Recife, Federal de Pernambuco, about AI and ethics. So stay tuned. So okay, today, so we will. So just a little reminder that the schedule of the seminar you can have it by through this address, and you can have the playlist of the whole series of seminars on the specific channel, YouTube channel of the Forum of Science and Culture of the UFRJ, the university, through the other link. But and you can have access also through the news from coming from the college, right? Okay, so today I will do a little bit of reminder about what are the models for composition for music, and which could be computed and which could be also inferred from examples by machine learning techniques. I will talk a little bit about Markov chains, Markov models, because they are very much used also in creative process, especially in music. And I haven't talked about it yet, so I thought it would be interesting to give the intuition without getting into the technique. But actually, the basis of the technique is quite simple. And in about a month from now, there will be a professor, Lidwin Pitombert, who is a professor of composition, music composition at the University Federal of Rio de Janeiro, who will give a seminar on about how to compose music and using these kind of tools and models. So you will have more examples to come. Then I will give a quick reminder of the idea of artificial networks and neural networks, and I will present some kinds of neural networks which are very used for creation and I haven't talked about them yet. And I think it's interesting to give the idea and some examples. One is named the autoencoder, and the other is named GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. And both of them are very important. So actually, I thought it's one of the reasons of this seminar today. It's to present them, to give intuition, to give examples, etc. And last, I will talk a little more about the ChatGPT. One of the objectives today is actually to continue to show you this these techniques, actually based Markov chains and also neural networks, even ChatGPT, the basic of the technique for these tools, these AI systems. In the case of ChatGPT, which is very huge, very big, but actually the basis of the technique is very simple. And even if the ChatGPT adds a little more recent techniques, additional, they are still simple, at least in the principle. And then I will conclude, and there will be time for discussion and questions, right? Okay, so just a little reminder of that there are various types of composition models, abstract composition models. For instance, you can compose music by rules, and that is in a way you apply the rules in order to filter. So in a way to consider them as some kind of either as filtering rules. So actually these are constraints, and this is constraint solving problem, or as production rules, like in most of expert systems, AI expert system, that is rules which will produce some knowledge and ultimately produce some part of a music piece. You have also grammars, like for language. In a way, musical language is it's some kind of language, although the main difference with our human language is the importance of time, importance of temporal relation, which are important also, of course, in our human language, but in music it's fundamental. And you have also the possibility of having several words at the same time, polyphony of several instruments, several notes, which is usually not the case for at least one, just a single speaker. And even when everybody speaks at the same time, it becomes usually difficult to understand what's going on. And Markov chains, so and the neural models, artificial neural networks are very important for creation, for generation of artistic content. So, and there are other. You could use a planning method. You could use case-based reasoning as a way to extrapolate from existing. So you have genetic algorithms which are inspired by the evolution as a way to try to optimize some feature, and cellular automata and other ones. So we will focus on Markov chains and again on neural networks. And the idea is that before getting into Markov chain, the idea, important idea to remind as well, is that if you remember the first example of algorithmic composition, which was in 1957, it was the Iliac suite. It was programmed by hand, the model, with Markov chains and filtering rules by two physicists who were also composers. But it's very it's very tedious and error-prone process, because you need to be really expert, and you can make a mistake in your model, and then the music generated won't be good. So you need to correct, etc. So the idea of using a machine to build the model for you, the abstract model for you, from a series of examples, a corpus of example, is very interesting, because it helps you to actually, the machine will learn a style, will learn an abstract model. For instance, the music, the melodies of Tom Jobim, the harmony of Tom Jobim as well, the combination of both, or the style of rhythm in Latin jazz, for instance, or various models from various examples. And so the curation, you decide which examples, which corpus you are talking about is very important, because if you show some blues music, for instance, the machine will learn the style of blues. If you show them pop songs, it will learn the kind of the principle, the style of pop song, etc. So, and then with these learned models, learned styles, which could be for the whole music, that is the melody, harmony, the chords, also the rhythm, etc., and even the production, the arrangement, and the but it could be only on some part. For instance, you could make some mixture between some melody coming from, I don't know, Bach sonata, for instance, and have some harmony coming from a jazz composer, and do some interesting kind of mixture. It's up to you to see if it could lead to good, interesting results or not. So now we have reminded this idea of using machine learning techniques to learn style from various examples of music, pieces of music, being melodies, sequences of chords, the combination of both. It's with the rhythm elements, of course, as well. Let's have a quick look at, no, not a quick, going slowly to get into the idea of Markov chains. So Markov was a mathematician from Russia, who did an interesting hypothesis, is that actually we don't need the past. In many situations, in order to predict the next event, what will happen, for instance, for the weather, we don't need to have a series of all the record of all the previous weather situations for during a year, for instance. We can have a good, well, not perfect, but in many situations, actually rather good model, very simple model, just based on the current situation, the current state. For instance, the weather, is it sunny or rainy, and some probability transition for the next state, that is the tomorrow's weather. So, for instance, a very simple example about the weather would say, for instance, if today is sunny, there is 70% chances that tomorrow it will be sunny again. And there will be 30% chances that tomorrow there will be rain. And if today is rainy, there will be 80% chances of having again tomorrow rain, and 20% chance that tomorrow will be sunny. So it's a very simple example, but it captures the idea that with some probabilities which capture the chance of transition from a state to another. In this case, there are only two states, sunny and rainy. you can already capture some predictive model, which is simple, but which may be in some situations rather good. So that's the idea, and let's apply it to music to get the idea. So let's start, in order to make it more simple, let's start with just one example of melody. This is the Ode to Joy by Beethoven in the 7th Symphony. I stop here. Here is the score. Even if you don't know how to read a score, no problem. I put in the English notation the pitch of the notes under. For instance, here it's E, so it's mi, okay, in French and in Portuguese. So E, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, so, do, re, etc. Okay, so that's the melody. Okay, so let's go back from the start, maybe. Okay, and you will follow. I will follow with you. I stop here. And so now let's try to see, for a given note, what are the possible notes following it. For instance, in this case, in this slide, I started with the sol. We will have to do it as well for mi, for every note in the melody. But let's start with a sol. Okay, G. Okay, so here we have the first G we find. The next note is a G. So that is that after a G, there is one, up to now, there is one possibility of having another G. Okay, let's go for the next G. Okay, I put the G in blue in order to help to find them. And then again, after the note after the G is again a G. Okay, so that's the second time that the next note after a G is a G. Okay, let's continue. Okay, the third G is over there. Oops, sorry, I mistake. Okay, of course the second G is here, is the first G in the first line. So G, the next note is a G, but this is also, now let's consider as a first note, and then the next note is no more a G, it's a F. Okay, that is that up to now we have, after a G we have one G situation once, and after a G F it's once also that situation. Okay, we continue. G, G, F, we find the same three notes following. So the same thing. After a G, there's we have a situation of a G once, and after a G we have the situation of a F as a following note once again. So this makes 2 times after a G there is a G, and 2 times after a G there is a F. So we continue. Okay, now we have a G and after a E. So we note that after a G there is a E. It happens one time. Then we continue. After a G there is a G. So it's third time that there's a G after a G. After the next G, there's a F, so it makes 3 times, and that's it. There's no more in the melody. There's no more occurrence of G. So we have now, which is named the the probability transition from the G note. That is, after a sol, a G, we have one chance that it will be, if we consider that only happens once, when it happens 3 times that there's a F after a G and 3 times that there's a G after a G, the sol. That is that, and the sum of probabilities, it should be also always equal to 1. So the probability of the G following a G is 0.043. The probability of having a F after a G is the same, because it's also 3 times. And the probability of having a E after a G is a third of that value, and it's 0.14. So we have now in a way, we capture the probability of the transition from a note, a given note, this time G, on the following notes. So now what we would do is the same for all notes. From a E, what will be the possibility from a E? It could be a E, it could be also a F, it could be also a D, etc. So we count. Every time we count how many occurrences of that transition. And we sum that up, and we compute by dividing, in order for the sum to be 1, the probability. And we do it for all the notes. That is from a note, a given note, to all possible notes. And then we have some kind of automata. For instance, here we have the G, and you can see that the arrow which comes back to the G, which means the transition from G to another G note, the same note, repetition of the note of the sol, G. Its probability is 0.43. And the probability that after a G, the transition is to a F, a Fa, is the same value, 0.43. And the probability that after a G, there is a E, is only 0.14, right, 1/4. And so we will do the same for the same calculation at hand. Of course, the computer will do it more quickly and more accurately than us, because just basically counting the occurrences of the transitions on this melody, right? So you could see, for instance, that F, even if I didn't put all the other values and I didn't compute, I was lazy, the probabilities. For instance, F, there is no transition from F back to F, because indeed, after F, there's no occurrence of another F. After F, it's always another note. It's most of the time it's a E, and it's actually, yes, it looks like it's always a E, so which is interesting. No, sorry, there's only one, no, twice it's there's a possibility to be a G, etc. So actually we will compute. So okay, so in a way we capture the probability of the transitions of the notes, that is the next note, and from next note, next note, etc. From a melody. But here it's not very interesting, of course, because there's only one song, one melody. So the idea is to do this for a series of melodies. And for instance, all melodies from Beethoven, all melodies from the songs of Tom Jobim, etc. And then we can capture, so there will be many more situations of transition, many more occurrences, and we count and we compute the probability the same way, exactly the same way, but with lots of examples, and we capture that way the style, in a way. That is that, for instance, I don't know, with Tom Jobim, it's much more likely that after a G sol, there would be I don't know, a D, for instance, Ré, or where for another musician it will be quite different. So you have actually a matrix that is for every note. The lines and the columns are the notes, so you have 12 notes, right? In the do sustenido, ré, ré sustenido, mi, fa, fa sustenido, etc. until C, B. And the same. So that is for instance, here, this is the value of the probability of the transition from, if we start here, across and down, that is do sustenido, ta, ta, ta. For instance, here, it would be from Ré sustenido, the probability to have, if I go here, for instance, to F, Fa, right? So now that we have this model, which has been built, in the case of Iliac Suite, they did this probability matrix by hand, which is, of course, difficult, and you have really to try out or to know really what you want to do. But in this case, it's computed automatically from the various examples, and then we can generate from the model. It's very easy. We start from we decide which is the first note, for instance, a G, a Sol, or E, or whatever, and then with this given note, for instance, a Sol, so I would be here. Okay, we see that there is a 0.04 chance that there is another Sol. No, sorry, that there is a Do, C after. There is 0.12 chance that there will be C sharp, Do sustenido. There will be 0.04 chance that to have D, Ré, and etc. So then we decide, or we draw, we play a dice to make some random choice, and which will, of course, according to the probability, that is the events, the transition which are more likely to happen, they will be more likely to happen. And then, for instance, after the G, there will be which will be selected would be F, Fa, and then we repeat the process, etc., with always using the matrix of the transition probabilities, and that way we generate step by step, note by note, in an interactive way, a melody which will correspond to that the style that has been learned. Alors, this works, and we'll show some examples, but but it's not that precise, because we have no memory of all the previous elements, only current element. It's only based on current note and the transition probability for the next possible notes. So actually, what happens is to have a non-completely Markovian, or it's called higher order Markov model, where actually you consider also up to n previous states, that is n previous nodes. For instance, if n, the order of the Markov chain now is 5, you will consider not only current node to try to predict the next node, but you will consider also the 5 past nodes, well, including current node. So, of course, you have a more precise model. The matrix is more complex, as you imagine also, but for a computer, it's easy to process the matrix, to generate them, and after to do the random choice and the probability, following the probabilities to generate the node. And so it will give a much better result that is more close to the corpus. But there is a problem, actually, interesting problem, is that if you get to a very high order for the Markov chain, for instance, 10, or the process of generation becomes a plagiat, because it recopies actually the sequence of notes from the corpus. That is, it recopies quasi-textually some melodies, for instance, from Tom Joby, etc., which is not good, of course, because it creates copyright problems, etc. And so this is a problem. If you have a small order one, it's not very precise. And if you augment the order, it's much more precise, but also it tends to recopy the corpus. And then for these reasons, some researchers like Pierre Roy and François Pachet have proposed to have variable orders of Markov, and also have some constraints on the order of the Markov chain. For instance, because if you have if you have an order above 12, for instance, it will be plagiarism, and it's not very interesting. And if it's too small order, it's junk. That is, there's a lot of melodies generated which are not very interesting and not very conforming strongly to the corpus, to the intention. So the idea is to try to put min and max for the order in order to get to the sweet spot when the model gets that's the most interesting. So let's see some example. Actually, that's some example that I showed already. And it's in that case, what is interesting, it's a continuator system by prototype by François Pachet, is that the corpus is actually learned online. There's no, it's not like learning a model from existing melodies, etc. The musician plays, he will play piano in that example, and the machine actually starts exactly that way to build up this transition matrix to try to understand what are the probability of the pianist. After fa, he will play a sol. After a sol, he will play more likely a re and less likely a mi, etc., etc. And the more he's playing, the transitions matrix are updated, are consolidated actually, and change, adjusted. And when the pianist will stop playing, the system will start to play, generating music based on the model that he just learned. So let's see the example. So the pianist starts, it's using exactly so it's polyphonic, it's not just a mono melody with just one note. Okay, then it stops. You see that it makes some plagiat. It restarts from a melody, but also makes some transposition. Because in this system, there's you can adjust the possibility of making transposition. That's what he's doing. Transposing the same melody. And the excerpt. Just as the pianist has not played yet, the vocabulary of what he has played, the melody segments are very limited. So in the start, the machine, the continuator, has not many possible, in a way, has a very little vocabulary of possible sequences of notes to play. But the more the pianist will play, he will learn more. And of course, if the pianist repeats always the same transition of notes, the machine will not learn much more. But if he plays in lots of various types of melody and transitions, the machine will learn more and more. What the machine was playing. It's a question and answer. It's a kind of completion by the machine from the pianist and the human pianist and reverse. The pianist completes when the machine stops. Actually, the machine stops when the pianist restarts to play. It's interesting for him because in a way it's like he's facing a copy of him, was the learn the same style that he started to of melodies and harmonies of playing a piano, and so in a way it's an introspective process, and the way he's nodding the head shows that he's recognizing himself, and at the same time the system is made to make some well, at first, because there are probabilities, though it's not completely, it's not deterministic, so it more and more he has learned from the musician, the pianist. It's you cannot say exactly what will be the following, even because there are various possibilities, and second, even if some are more likely, more probable than some other ones, and for every note, but for a sequence of notes, of course, the combinatorial is bigger, and also, as I explained quickly before, there's a you can adjust. Actually, you could see Francois manipulating the computer. He could adjust some kind of control for adding some transpositions, for instance, in order to get a little bit outside of the zone of comfort. So now I will show another example, which I showed already, but this time, because we have more time, I will show the complete demonstration. So it will be demonstrated by Benoît Carré. It's a system also built by François Pachet and his team, research team at Sony. It's named Flow Composer. It's a more ambitious system than the continuator, which was already very interesting, and because now it's really made to be interactive with to compose music and not just to improvise, and also it's still based on Markov chains, but with the addition, actually, with some merging with constraints. That is, you can add some constraints to the Markov chain model for generation, saying, for instance, okay, I want more nodes. I want the I want that the melody be compatible with the tonality, current tonality, this kind of constraints. And for that, technique is more subtle and more complex. And of course, I won't detail these details of techniques. But what is important is to see the way the musician, the composer, interacts. He will start with choosing a corpus of music, of Broadway jazz music, and from that, asking the system to generate some melody and harmony as a starting point. If he likes it, great. If he doesn't, he can ask the system to generate another try. And because again, it's probabilistic for a generation, it's never exactly the same generation, although it's within the style of the model. And then he will interact with the score, that is changing some notes, changing some chords, removing some part of the music, asking the system to make some completion, that is in a bit like continuator, that is to from something that he decided to keep, asking the system to make some continuation, or also harmonization, that is keeping only the sequence of chords and asking a system to create a melody corresponding to chords, or the vice versa, choosing a melody and asking for the system to harmonize it and maybe selecting another style of music to have another kind of way of harmonizing the melodies for some part of the music. So it's you will see it's the idea of having a very interactive system. So I will let the video run, right? It's he will speak in French, but there's an English translation.
Je vais tenter de créer un nouveau morceau sur la page Flow Machine. Je commence par ouvrir une partition vierge. Là, je choisis le songset American Songwriters parmi une centaine de songsets. On peut créer soi-même son songset en regroupant sa sélection de chansons parmi les 12 825 enregistrées dans la base. American Songwriters, c'est 429 chansons américaines dans le style jazz. Je fais quelques réglages, pas trop de notes courtes et pas trop d'accords. J'obtiens un premier résultat.
It creates what is named a lead sheet. That is, it's a melody with the chords, with the textual notation. For instance, Do set C7 with altered fifth. F M9 means Fa with a seventh major seventh with a ninth. There's the second at the octave, etc. Right.
Puis un autre. Je garde deux mesures qui me plaisent. J'essaie un rendu avec des accompagnements qui sont dans la base. On peut créer...
So you could see that he tried out several sketches of song, and the first one he didn't like so much, and then he liked, but he kept only the half, the first half actually.
Je garde deux mesures qui me plaisent. J'essaie un rendu avec des accompagnements qui sont dans la base. On peut créer son propre accompagnement sur une partition et l'utiliser sur une autre. Je choisis un son de flûte mélotron pour la mélodie et un accompagnement que j'ai enregistré à la guitare et au piano sur la partition de Claire par Gilbert O'Sullivan. J'obtiens un rendu. Je me rends mieux compte de ce que ça peut donner. Je modifie une note qui me semble haute. Maintenant, j'applique le composeur sur les mesures que je n'ai pas gardées.
So what happened? The system actually complemented, that is from based on the context of the two first measures, what was there, and the style also which was chosen, it will continue complete the music.
J'obtiens un résultat avec trop de double croche. Donc je bouge le slider vers Long Notes.
But he's not, oops, sorry. He's not happy because he had too many short notes. So he can, with the constraints, he could decide the kind of average length of the notes. Unfortunately, I lost the
Partition et compte de ce que ça peut donner. Je modifie une note qui me semble.
Okay, so
J'obtiens un résultat avec trop de double croche.
come back here.
Donc je bouge le slider vers Long Notes.
Longer notes.
Je m'arrête sur une proposition. Je fais quelques modifs, une noire. Un autre accord parmi ceux qu'on me propose. Des modifs sur la dernière mesure. Bon, je sais pas trop, mais je tente un autre rendu. Je choisis autre chose que la flûte mélotron pour que la mélodie soit plus claire. Je tente le Vintage Sweetie pour la mélodie.
In this case, is changing the rendering, the production in a way, the kind of sound assigned to the.
Avec ce rendu rétro, j'ai envie de faire une modif, et puis la fin me semble bancale. Je lance un rendu avec un piano doux pour la mélodie. Et une guitare que j'avais enregistrée sur la chanson Everybody's Talking at Me.
So just a little word about the rendering, that actually the renderings are actual music, and the system is capable of extrapolating. That is, if you have some actual rendering of some sound recorded for some music, but the melody has nothing to do in common, same with the harmony, but the system is capable of, in a way, adapting from the sound, either with some knowledge about the harmony, that is the chords which are substitutable, which are equivalent, or doing some transposition, doing some time stretching in order to actually to adjust the tune to be on the right note, the right tonality, but keeping the same sound.
Je trouve que ce son-là marche bien avec ce morceau. Pause. J'ai envie de continuer dans un style simple, classique. J'essaie de trouver une logique dans cette mélodie et je change quelques notes.
So still editing.
L'accord de mi mineur 7 que j'avais trouvé est bien, mais je l'avance d'une demi-mesure parce que sinon j'ai l'impression
Changing
qu'il
the
me bloque.
chords.
Pas vraiment avancé, je change de note. Pause. J'efface finalement la fin, mais je garde la
Keeping
suite
the
d'accords
two
en
last
modifiant le dernier.
measures, except keeping
Et je relance Composer sur ces dernières mesures.
the chords.
J'ai un truc pas
And
mal,
then
j'efface une
asking for
note
melody,
et je fais un rendu.
system to create a melody based on the chords.
Bon, Get Lucky, non. Voilà, ça pourrait être un début de chanson sweet.
And this system has been used by various professional musicians to create and to produce, to really make songs, various songs, in using this system, this prototype environment with these AI tools to assist them in a way to test ideas, to reuse some inspiration, some style from that musician, and in a way to help composing and producing the music and arranging the music in an interactive way. And this is an example of song which has been realized shown it already recently. So the melody has been composed by the system and the harmony as well. With not only the system alone, with real musicians as well. Of course, there's a real singer, woman singer who sings, and the words she wrote the words actually as well. So it's not completely automated generation of music. On the opposite, it's using some tool, some environment to help to get inspiration from rare melodies and harmonies, and to do it incremental, and using the system to, in a way, to help you to get ideas and to get outside of your zone of comfort, and also to be able to test ideas. What would happen if I would transpose, but do some more reharmonization in the style of Wayne Shorter for that part, etc. Then the system could do it almost immediately for you. Ancient times, heroes battle cry, lovely children shed their dreams, angels cried tears of moonbeams. I saw and I know all there is to know. Alors, for the creation is always very important. That is the Benoît Carré who composed the music. He selected some melodies with some very high intervals, because so they are very large, and in a way to influence the generation, the style with such very big steps in terms of pitch. So the musician has still the complete control on exactly what are the source of inspiration, and how he uses to make a new and a good interesting music. So as I said briefly, Lidwin Pitombert, who's a specialist of composition, music composition, professor at UFRJ, will explain more about his practice of including using Markov chains to compose music in about a month and a half from now. So stay tuned. So now I want to I want to review a little bit about artificial neural networks. So I talked about that extensively, but I wanted to go back to it one more time. So remember this slide, this presentation of this example of classification of animals image. For instance, if they are cats, if they are dogs, etc. And so how, when you train the system with many pictures of cats, of dogs, etc., if the prediction, the classification at the end of the network is wrong, then you adjust a little bit the weights of the connections between all the nodes on all various layers, in order to get the good answer. And you do it with lots of examples, and again in an iterative way, until the network has learned actually the good prediction, a good classification. So what it has learned actually is the mapping between the input the output. So another example I propose as also to make the relation with the idea of linear regression or nonlinear regression, which for the prediction of the price, the value of an apartment or a house on the market. So you have various examples, actual examples of houses. For instance, this house has 200 square meter, that house has only 80 square meter, that one, etc. And the 200 square meter house value is 2 million, the 100 square meter, the value is 1 million, and from various more examples you have, you can have, in a way, try to extrapolate some curve, because usually it's not a straight line, which corresponds, which approximates actually to all these various examples. And the idea is basically make some kind of extrapolation. That is, if a client comes to the real estate agent, says, okay, I want to sell my house, and this, okay, show me your house. What is the size? Also, what is the floor? Is it what is the place in the city? Is it a good neighborhood or not? What is also the age of the house, the year of construction? Is it very old? Has it been completely renovated, etc., etc.? And from this information, if you have, through the various examples, if you have built by hand or by machine a statistical linear or nonlinear regression of this relation between the size of the house and the value, then you will be able to say, okay, I estimate that the price of your house should be 1 million and 2,000, for instance, dollars or Brazilian real or euro, right? So that's the idea. So it's really it's also named actually curve fitting. That is basically you try to adjust a curve on a space where you have many examples, which are the dots actually, which are all the correspond to all the houses, all the examples of cats or dogs, etc. But in the case of deep learning, the number of variables is not just one or two, like for instance, to estimate the inflation or employment, but is huge, could be thousands or 100,000 or more variables for input and also for output. But the idea is still the same, is really to make the correlation. The network will learn the correlation between the input and the output from various examples. And so again, you can use it to predict to estimate the price of house or property from various values like the size, the floor, etc. You can also, for instance, predict the weather. You can try to predict various things, and you can use it to predict in a way that's I showed already, and it's a way we were reviewing this, to predict a possible or probable, most likely counterpoint accompaniment to a melody in the style of Jean-Sebastian Bach chorales. So that's the example I showed as the first example of music generation. So if you remember, the input, it's a soprano voice, it's a melody, basically. And the output are the three melodies corresponding to the three voices, alto, tenor, and bass, which will do the accompaniment, the counterpoint accompaniment to the soprano voice. And of course, they are not completely random. They correspond to the style of accompaniment of the genius Johann Sebastian Bach, the way he creates this using counterpoint rules and his genial creativity is creating melodies, or is using existing melodies in many cases, and is creating the three additional voices. So it's a counterpoint generation, always in the same process of generating the counterpart, the output, from the output based on what the model has been learned after learning from adjusting the model from showing various lots of examples of input and output. Okay, so now I will show one more example. Oh yeah, so this is this is the way. So this I had shown already, just to show a good a good example of creation of choral, back choral, with a more complex, bigger model, where it really captures the style of Jean Sebastian Bach chorals. Okay, now I will show some very recent example that I found, and which I found funny because it combines somehow neural networks, which are so artificial neural networks to do this kind of prediction, and generation music, you will see, and at the same time also biological neural networks, that is the brain, human brain. So the idea is following, that trying to be able to reconstruct the music that you hear only from the electric signals of your auditory cortex. So, and in order to do that, we will train a network. The network the network is here. That's here. The network has input a neural activity, that is the activities of electrical, are not directly of the neurons, but through some electrodes which are implanted in the skeleton, in the brain of the patients. Actually, for this experiment, they use people who have some implants because they have some illness, like strong epilepsy, etc. So because through the electrodes implants, this the capture of the signals, of electrical signals of the auditory cortex is much better than if you just use a conventional captor, which is put on the external side of the hair of the head. And then so this is the input, and the output is the music, actually. So what this neural network here, and which is over there, it has been trained with many existing music on the which was heard by the patient, and the recording of the neural activity, electric activity of the human auditory cortex. So the neural network has learned the correlation, the relation between the input music, actually, and the way it's processed by the brain, and the network actually it generates, it's a retro engineering, because it tries to estimate, to imagine, to recreate input, that is the original music, which has been heard by the patient only from the electrical activity of the auditory cortex. Let's see the result. So that's let's hear the reconstructed music that is from the auditory cortex activity. And actually, this is the initial original music. So another break in the wall from the Pink Floyd, from the album The Wall.
Dad is flown across the ocean, leaving just a memory. A snapshot in the family album. Dad.
Music.
All in all, it was all just bricks in the wall.
Okay, that's that segment.
All it was
Okay.
all just bricks in the wall.
Or it was just a break in the wall, and the reconstruction. Of course, it's not perfect, but you can recognize the shape. So you could see that could be used for mostly anything, and that's why it's getting so much use for translation, for having the relation exactly, learning the relation between a language and another, sentences and in other sentences, for face recognition, for speech generation, etc., for source separation, for weather prediction, etc., and for text generation with ChatGPT. We'll get into that. Okay, so today I want to introduce the idea of two models, which are neural network models, which are very important in the community for generating not just music but artistic content. And these are the idea of autoencoder, I will explain, and also next generative adversarial networks. It looks complicated, but you will see actually intuition is rather simple. So let's start with autoencoder. So autoencoder, it's a strange word. It's self-encodes. So what does it mean? Actually, it's a neural network. So you know there's the input, okay, and this output, and there is usually, at least in the case of deep learning, there are many, but there is a hidden layer with nodes, and there's always all the connection between all the nodes from the layer to the next layer, with weights which will be adjusted during the training phase. And for the generation, the computation after the training, you just basically flow the values from the input with the weighted sums, using the connections to weight actually the different. For instance, for this node, it will receive values from all the nodes from the first input layer, and by summing the values with the weights, right? and after you compute the next layer until the end. And here it's easy because you have only 3 layers, one hidden layer. So in this case, the network is symmetrical. That is, there's the same amount of nodes in the input as the output, because actually the output is isomorphic to the input. And how we will train the network? We'll train it with the same example at the end, at the entrance, as the input and as the output. So it looks as a bit stupid, because in a way we train the network to learn the identity, because it will learn the correlation between some information with the same information. So what's the point? The point is that the hidden layer, the number of nodes of the hidden layer in the middle is much smaller than the input or output layer, which have the same cardinality, same amount of nodes. So the network is forced actually to compress, to lose some part of the information in order to put it in a way to insert it within a fewer number of nodes. So it needs to lose some information, and at the same time, it needs to be able to reconstruct as much as well as possible the initial information in the output. And if you do this with many examples from the a corpus which is of a same style, which is not completely random, then it will force the neural network to actually try to abstract, to learn what is common to all these examples. In this case, we'll see melodies, and what is different, what is specific, and to actually to encode the specificity, the parameters, the dimensions for the variations, in order to represent the various examples only in a few variables, possibly and up to only 2 variables, which is very small. And all which is common to all these examples is encoded within the weights. And it looks a bit strange, but it works very well. It's very much used. So again, this network, we will train it with the same examples, same melodies, for instance, simple melodies as input, and as a reconstruction as the output, and many examples. And then and we call autoencoder, because he encodes and it decodes. Actually, there are two parts, the encoder part and decoding. And it has abstracted from the corpus of examples, in this case of melodies, and with, for instance, only 2 dimensions, depending of the number of the variables of the nodes of the hidden layer, we can actually explore this space of parameters. If it's a 2 space, it's better for us because it's a plane, so it's more easy to understand than with 12 dimensions, for instance, at the same time. And then by exploring, by navigating within this plane, actually, we will we'll be able to generate various melodies in the style of what has been learned from the set of examples. And so let's see some examples before showing some musical examples, in order to understand better visually. I will do the same thing with now a set of examples of written digits, numbers. Actually, it's a data set for which is very standard in the community, and which has been used for training to do automatic recognition for postal zip codes, actually, right? So you could see, for instance, various in the first line, various example of zero. The next line, various written different ways of one, different two, etc. And okay, so we use all these characters with the different pixels corresponding to all the input nodes of the input layer, and we compress into two. We force the network to compress to two nodes only, and to decode again to 784 nodes, which correspond to the the size of the image, actually, a number of pixels. And what is the result? If now we navigate within these two dimensions, which correspond to the two nodes, the two variables of the hidden network, we will rediscover all the various kinds of numbers. Not only numbers, you have 9, you have 0, you have 8, 3, etc., but also the different ways of writing them, and you can explore them. And so you have some controls of way of navigation, very abstract, in this case with only 2 dimensions, and you can control the generation while you stay in the style of music, if it's music which has been learned. I will show some example which I implemented myself in a very simple way. These are various melodies of music type Celtic for dance. So I will show some examples first. So this is a first example of a melody. It's named the Green Mountain, which is a traditional Celtic melody. Etc. Okay. Another example is named the Villa Fjord. It's also traditional. So that's the two. Sorry, this is the last two lines, right? So it's quite different from the previous one, but it's still in this kind of style of Celtic, of very melodic and repetitive melodic motif, and also for dancing with a very rhythmic. And so what we'll do now is to try to interpolate the two melodies. That is to find some melody which is in between the two. So let's show the results and the generated results, and let's explain how we did. So let's see the results. So you see, it has some captures some elements from the first song and the second song, and not just making it nice, or at least not just a cut and copy and paste in a non-musical way. And how did we did that? Actually, so the idea is that I explain it. Actually, we yes, sorry. So we take the first melody, right? the green arrow. We input it within the network after it has been trained with all the autoencoder, after it has been trained with all the melodies, right? So we take one of the melody, which could be a melody which was one of the training melody, or it could be another melody outside of the corpus, but in the same style. Okay, otherwise it won't work very well. So then we input in the input layer, the notes, the values which correspond to the notes, and we capture. We are not interested in reconstruction. We're just interested in the values of the hidden layers, which are computed by weighted sum. Remember, in this case, we have only two values. Okay, now we do the same with the second melody. Now in blue, we input and we take the corresponding abstract compression compressed value vector. Then we add the two vectors no, sorry, we don't add the two vectors. Yeah, we make a mean of the two vectors, actually. We just add them and divide by 2. Yes, so it's exactly. So we have the interpolation of the two vectors, and we input this value of the mean vector in the hidden layer, and we compute the output values, and the output values corresponds to the reconstructed melody of this interpolated melody between the two initial melodies. And so that works very well. Oops, sorry. I can show here. It's really good. Yes, sorry for that. That if it's much better and more musical that if you just do put a little bit of oil and a little bit of vinegar from time to time. Here it's very fluid, the interpolation. If you just make, that is, you add more and more notes from the second melody and remove more and more notes from the first melody, you can see the result. So it's another example. First melody starts to disappear progressively, and the notes from the second one continue, but the mixing is very makes no sense in a way. It's very abrupt, very compromising. If you do the same through the latent space, through this way of doing, so this example done by the Google Magenta music creation group, you will see the difference. Start to have a smooth transition to the second melody. Leave it until the end. And finally, you arrive to the second melody. You started with the first melody, but now you work this time through this abstract representation of the melodies, which that you can manipulate. It's more compact. As it's more abstract, you can do more effective manipulation. Something you can do also is to do it's named attribute arithmetic. So what does it mean? Actually, the idea is also intuitively simple. You take some subset of a set of examples that you will compute or that you have been used to train the network, and which have a common characteristic. For instance, which are a lot of notes or have are very I don't know, very tonal or very well in the case of music, and then you compute their abstract representation through the encoding process, and you make the mean value of it, and somehow it captures the characteristic of this class of examples. And then you take any other example. Again, you compute the abstract through the encoding process in the middle part of the, just to show again, oops, yeah, you compute the abstract representation in the hidden layer. Oops, sorry, and you add that vector which corresponds to the mean of that is the characteristic of this attribute. You add, you make, and then you decode, that is, you generate, you reconstruct the element from the compressed representation, and then you have your initial element example, but with modified by this characteristic. So I show at first some the using because it's more visual. Oops, yeah. In this case, it's not music. These are pictures of people, actual people, and you have 5 different faces, and you could there's a huge quantity of examples of faces, people's faces, and some of them have a mustache, some of them have glasses, some of them are smiling in the picture, etc. So if you take only the faces with which have glasses, you compute for each of them, again, abstract representation. You make a mean value of it. It represents somehow the attribute having glasses. And then you take any subject, for instance, you can see of the 5 faces, and you can generate a kind of a version of them with glasses. You can do the same with mustache, smiling, eyes open, etc. And it's not just pasting some glasses on an existing picture. It's really completely regenerating the picture, right? And so for the music, it's the same idea. That, for instance, here I took a simple first melody actually that I use already. Okay, so I won't play it all. So the 2 first lines, and then I take melodies from Bach chorale, so we have nothing to do with Celtic music. And again, I make because they have some very specificity, which is completely different from the Celtic music style. So this is one example of the Bach chorale soprano melody. Very different. And then I add this attribute of Bach chorale soprano melody to the previous Celtic music, Green Mountain, and you will see the result. Somehow it captured the style of soprano of Bach melodies, and at the same time it has the shape of melodic shape of the Green Mountain, so but which is simplified because it's less rhythmic. There are less notes, so you can do interesting hybrids and manipulation with this kind. So I hope you understood the idea, and of course you can do things more sophisticated. I showed you simple examples to show you the idea. Now I want to say a word about generative adversarial networks, because they are, even if you don't know about them, actually you know about the effect, because you have heard and read about deep fake, the problem created by some pictures or videos which look perfect and which actually are completely synthetic. And for instance, Trump arrested in a street, or etc. And this but so the issue of how fake created that way could be used in a bad way, in a bad manner, it's another issue. Actually, it's not a technical issue. It's also the way it's disseminated by the social networks, etc. But here I will focus on how to make perfect fakes, and so that's the idea. That's actually, if you remember the idea of Turing test, that is how to compare the human intelligence with a machine, artificial intelligence, by having an observer which makes dialogues with an entity which it doesn't know if it's the computer of a human being. It will communicate by writing some text, receive some response without direct interaction, without viewing what's in the other room. And if the dialogue looks sufficiently human, sufficiently realistic for him, then it means that he cannot discriminate between the machine AI and a real human. So in a way, and this is and we say that the machine has passed the Turing test. That is, it's indistinguishable. So the idea of and for instance, we saw some. I showed some example, but for copyright reason, I couldn't show the video of the program, but of testing the public and experts for trying to discriminate, to tell if this was Bach music or computer generated music. So the idea is the same. So that is, you have a first entity, which is the first network, which is a generator. Let's suppose it generates fake money, fake dollars, fake euro, etc. And you have another network entity, which is called a discriminator, whose role is to be able to distinguish, to try to guess if it's a fake money or it's a real money. So it's like for the Turing test, this discriminator, he will receive some money, some money note, without knowing if it comes from the generator, which is fake money, artificially generated fake money, fake note, or if it's a real note dollar, for instance, so coming from a real database of notes from euro, etc., various notes, various pictures of notes, right? So it doesn't know which comes to it, but he needs to be able to guess if it's a fake or if it's real. And the two networks are trained simultaneously. That is, the generator starts to create fake money at first, very because it has no clue or very bad. But the discriminator also is not learns to discriminate, receives fake which are very wrong, but starts to try to guess properly, actually, between the real and the fake. So it's getting better and better. He's adjusting his weights of his network to classify. Remember that the classification to train, to predict or classify, for instance, the picture of animals, of cats, dogs, etc. It's trained adjusting the weights until it's doing the right classification prediction. So the discriminator is training with various examples of fake or real notes, money notes, and the generator as well. So the generator will create better and better notes, fake notes, and the discriminator will become better and better able to discriminate. So at the end, actually, the discriminator, the generator becomes so good at doing the fake that the discriminator guess half chance it's a fake or it's real, and you can stop to use the discriminator and just use the generator, which has been trained to make perfect fakes. And so the two, it's a game, actually. They are competing. That's why it's named adversarial networks. There are two networks, so that's and they are competing and against the other, and getting trained against the other. And so I won't get into the mathematics, which actually is simple, and but the intuition is simple, and actually actual architecture, it's the basic is quite simple, and it works very well. And now it can create fakes. For instance, the pictures that look like real people actually are completely artificial. That is, this has been created by a GAN, a generative adversarial network, which has been trained from a database of 2,000 celebrity pictures. And it looks real. They look like real people, although it's completely fake. And so actually, it's very good to do some imitation, but of course, it's antinomic of creativity, because exactly it's reproduced almost as a perfect, although it's not a copy. It's a fake which is indistinguishable from the real people picture, but it's not recopying an existing picture. It's creating new picture, but of people who don't exist, or actually, because we have 7 billion people on the earth, of course, there should be some people which look very similar to these pictures. But anyway, so for creation, it's not so good, because actually it's. But for instance, one researcher has got an interesting idea of adding to this GAN way of generation also some classification of the style of the painting, because he was generating painting. at the output, that is the painting generated, the new painting generated, and the other part of the network was trying to classify the style of the painting with some predefined styles, abstract, cubist, expressionism, fauvism, impressionism, pop art, etc. And there was some incentive for the training of the network to create fakes, paintings which look like real paintings, and at the same time which are equiprobable in terms of classification. That is, that which the classification process cannot say if it's expressionist or impressionist or pop art. It is lost in a way. He cannot decide between the different categories of painting. And it's a way to incentive the generation to try to create a new style, actually, because for the artist, usually artists, they try to create their own style. For instance, cubist painting, impressionist in the case of Monet, etc. Pointillist in the case of Seurat, pop art by Warhol, etc. So it's exactly that technique which has been used to create the Edmond de Bellamy painting, which has been sold for more than $4,000 in Christie's in 2018. So actually, it's a generative adversarial networks plus this incentive of doing more creative. Actually, that is it. And you can see that the painting, indeed, it has some characteristic of a portrait of some human being. At the same time, it has some characteristic of modern painting, a bit like Francis Bacon, and some kind of some mixture between abstract and figurative painting. So I will skip this. I have almost no more time, so I will just review a few ideas about ChatGPT. What I said already is that for me it's a game changer. It's very interesting in terms of, although it can create only text, but you can dialogue with it, with ChatGPT or other systems like Bard, etc. There are several other ones now. But and the dialogue is a way to control the creation, because you can say, okay, I like what you say, but can you for instance, if you ask him to create a poem, but I want it more long, or I want it more short, or I want it more romantic, or more, etc. So, and it will refine the generation, and this is important to have again a human being in the loop for controlling the generation, not just letting the system on its own. And if you don't like the results, you need to restart almost from scratch. You cannot reuse what has been created, and you need to change the parameters, and you need to restart to regenerate from scratch. And this is no good for interactive creation and generation. So I showed that already, that slide, that it's a huge network, but actually the basis of the network, the neural network, is always the same. These are basically layers with nodes, with weights, which are adjusted during the training phase. So it's a huge, really huge network. For instance, the network I used for the Jean Sebastian Bach choral counterpoint generation was had 16 as just 3 layers and 16 parameters weights, and ChatGPT 3 it's supposed, because it's not public, it's supposed to have about 2 trillion parameters, 100 million times more than the network that I had used. And ChatGPT is using an architecture which is named a transformer, which has some interesting ideas, and I don't have much time to I will just try to give you some intuition, because it's an important idea. It's the idea of embeddings. The idea is as follows, is that we use part of the network to encode the concepts, being words, for instance, in case of ChatGPT, for translation, for text generation, dialogue, but this could be image, this could be components, this could be musical components like notes and duration, etc. The idea is that the network will transform, will create a new representation of all these items, this vocabulary, actually, right? And so let's stay in natural language, okay? And but put them not in a random way in space, but put them in an organized way where similar words are very close in space, and very different are very far. And for instance, also semantic relationship, for instance, from a man to a woman, or vice versa, and from a king to a queen, you have the same transition, actually, vector from the word man and woman, and from the word king to the word queen, because actually they are the equivalent. And you have also the network will also capture the syntactic relationship, for instance, from big, biggest, small, smallest, etc. So, and only statistically through a lot of text, and from this text, and I have no time to really get into that, but the process is basically, it will be trained to complement sentences. So that is, you enter lots of examples of sentences. For instance, I want to eat an apple, but you don't put the last word, and then the network needs to try to predict what is the final word. So in that case, it would be apple, for instance. It could be another one. And with lots of training that way, the system will start to learn actually the relation between the words, and through the same way of the autoencoder, in a way to encode in a hidden layer as vectors every item, every word, and because these are vectors, so these are vectors which are not just 2 or 3 dimension, a huge dimension, like it could be 10,000, or because the vocabulary is huge. Imagine you can do arithmetic operation on these vectors. For instance, if you compute the dot product of 2 vectors, if the 2 vectors are very close, that is, are very related, the value will be positive, and if they are not, will be 0 or negative. So this is the idea of the self-attention mechanism which is used for a sentence to know what words actually are important, are related to when you in a way intuitively when the network will process a word. For instance, I want to eat an apple, and it wants to translate it in French. Want, then what are the words, other words in the sentence which are important, where you should focus his attention on, which are more weight actually as a context for the training and for the generation. And this actually is based on the embeddings, because this is just a product of vectors. But anyway, this is a bit too technical, and I will stop there. And oh yeah, I had that for the self-attention, but okay, forget it. I won't. I don't have time. So just to remember is that transformer, which is the main engine, the architecture, huge architecture, which is used for translation of language. Google Translate, for instance, use a transformer, and the same architecture actually that ChatGPT uses. And this architecture is basically a neural network, huge, but basically as the ones I showed. So it's as a scale, huge scale, but it has this extra technique feature of this embedding, which actually is a way to learn, for the system to learn the semantic and syntactic relation between words, which happens to be fundamental for him to learn, to understand language. But anyway, just to finish, there's another component which is very important in ChatGPT, is for the dialogue. There's another way of training it. It's named reinforcement learning. It's actually they use at OpenAI and Google, etc. They use human experts to feedback on the generation of dialogue by the ChatGPT. They say basically, this is better, this is no, I cannot accept that because this is politically incorrect, for instance, or etc. So it's a way to align the generation on human values in a way, right? And so it's a completely different way of learning, machine learning and training. And it's named reinforcement learning, and I won't detail it, but just that it's much more inspired by biology actually, and it's basically based on the reinforcement signals. That is, every action you make, every decision. For instance, if you are a rat in a maze, and if you get into the cheese, for instance, then you have a very positive reward because you get super bonus. If you get to if you encounter a cat in the maze, then it's a very negative feedback, and you're dead. And the idea is, through all this little reinforcement, this is better, this is no good, this is not so good, etc. The autonomous agent, the AI, will learn in the long run the good policies, that is the good sequence of actions to get good results. And this is exactly this kind of learning, reinforcement learning, which has been used, for instance, for AlphaGo, for the AI system which defeated the human Go player. So, but this is just to get you the at least the name and the very intuitive ID. And what is interesting about ChatGPT is that you can actually specialize it. You specialize it by the way you ask questions, and this is named prompt engineering. You can show some examples, and that way you can actually control in some way. And you can also specialize the whole architecture by fine-tuning, that is training, making kind of additional training, both on the standard way of training and the reinforcement learning, the dialogue part for specific domain and specific task, for instance, for music. But just to finish, I will show just again the example of music generation with ChatGPT. We showed, that I asked him to generate a music in the style of Wage Shorter, and he generated the text part of the melody and the harmony that I could put into. It could do it itself. Soon it will be able to do it itself, but on a score to listen to the result. What's interesting is you can dialogue. You can say, okay, I would like it more rhythmic and more melody, harmonic ambiguity. That's what I asked, if you remember. More short, longer, more blues oriented, etc., etc. So just to finish, that there are more seminars to come. For instance, on ethics, on music composition with models like Markov chains, on the problem of authorship and copyright, etc. So please stay tuned. And I reuse actually the same conclusion I used last week, I guess, that it's this AI for generative contents is getting really big. Not just art, but also it's used, for instance, to do some summarize automatic summarization, summary of debate or documents, etc. So lot could be more automatized. About the deep fake and the way you can create now automatically a voice which looks very human. It creates problem for the neighbor rights. For instance, I already mentioned for the actors who do the dubbing in another language, the dialogues of a movie, because it's probable that soon part of it will be done automatically by AI, such kind of AI system. And for instance, the strike just stopped in Hollywood, and they were asking about some guarantees exactly against the use of AI, also for programming, I mentioned. So it's an important moment, and we need to understand what's going on, not just to be passive about it. And that's the idea of the seminar, the cycle of seminar. So thank you. A few references again, and it's time for some comments or questions. So now you can write them through the chat. So now I will stop. I will exit from the presentation, and I will go to the, sorry. Yes, I'll go to the YouTube.
Você tem perguntas, Jean-Pierre?
Alors, vamos lá. Estou... Ah, não tem...
Eu imaginei isso, porque foi muito boa a aula, parabéns, muito, muito boa.
Obrigado.
Excelente. E
Não, né,
com questões assim mais profundas mesmo, da própria questão da música, né? Mas depois essa relação com o chat GPT, com o autogenerativo, é muito interessante, muito bom.
Obrigado,
Gostei
Ana.
muito.
Bom, é verdade que eu hesitei a dar mais um seminário, mas, bom, você...
Não, mas foi muito bom. Eu achei que era necessário para
Mesmo como
esclarecer, né?
ainda não consegui explicar tudo que seria possível explicar, mas esse é sempre fim. Mas, de qualquer maneira, a ideia também que tudo é gravado, as pessoas podem, a qualquer momento, voltar a... Eu vou voltar no Zoom. Yeah.
Isso.
Pode voltar a gravação, porque tudo tá gravado e classificado lá na playlist. E então, algumas vezes, uma vez só de explicar uma coisa não é suficiente. Tem que rever um pouquinho.
Não, é
Isso
muito complexo, tem que rever mesmo. Eu vou aproveitar para pegar as aulas que eu não pude assistir, porque estava na
é.
China, né? Lá é difícil, lá é muito difícil.
Certo. Não, e do outro lado, eu entendo que o público talvez diz, bom, eu já vi uma vez, não, realmente é uma chance adicional. Também eu decidi finalmente, só a semana passada, de criar esse seminário hoje, só talvez não todo mundo, mas de qualquer maneira. Bom, espero que foi útil para aprofundir um pouquinho, rever um pouco as ideias, algumas dicas. E, de novo, vai continuar, vai ter mais colegas que vão... E cada um tem seu ângulo. E é isso que é interessante. Não é um discurso todo, sabe, único, formatado. Tem, você já testemunhou também, tem colegas que são críticos da IA, que tenta explicar que para eles a IA nunca vai ser realmente inteligente superior ao homem. Tem outros que vão dizer o contrário, isso não tem verdade absoluta. E tem várias. A semana passada foi, não exatamente na IA no sentido de inteligência artificial estrito, mas uma experiência bem interessante do Bertrand e Delin, como essa questão da interatividade da instanciação da orquestração da música, com um processo ajustável, e não só pelo compositor em tempo real, mas também pelo público. Então tem várias questões exatamente na maneira de criar arte, com essas várias tecnologias. Claro que nós não vamos falar de tudo, mas a questão dos direitos autorais, com certeza, é fundamental. Então, se você tem uma pergunta específica no momento, se não podemos. E talvez, André, eu acho que talvez vou voltar lá no. Mas eu acho que não vai ter mais comentário hoje. Só talvez podemos fechar a gravação, André, hein? Eu acho.
Apenas tem um agradecimento, professor, do aluno Daniel Puig da USP.
Então,
Agradecendo a
desculpa.
aula.
Então, eu volto lá. Então, desculpa. Momentinho. Sorry. Tem que voltar. Ah, não, sim. Ok. Pronto. Sim, ok. Obrigado, Daniel. Então, a Daniel da USP, bom, sou honrado. Agradeço também pela aula. Sim, tenho assistido às gravações depois. Muito obrigado pelo curso. Bom, obrigado. Meu prazer. fico honrado e feliz. Perfeito, eu estou aprendendo muito. Na próxima semana, tento participar ao vivo novamente, trazer minhas questões. Perfeito. Mas, obrigado, Daniel. Só que na próxima semana não vai haver seminários. Então, porque, bom, eu pensei que um colega e finalmente ele não consegui. Então, bom, vai ter algumas semanas onde não vai ter, que de certa maneira é bom também, porque senão fica um ritmo um
E é
pouco
bom para
pesado
rever, né,
para
Jean-Pierre? É bom
todo
para
mundo.
rever, porque a gente tem que rever
É,
e pensar.
a
É
próxima
impressionante como
semana
é muita informação,
é muita
realmente é muita
informação.
informação. Vamos ter esse tempo. Eu vou recuperar, né, o tempo perdido aqui, porque na China as aulas eram no meio da madrugada, não tinha condição. Tem
Ah,
que rever mesmo. Eram às 4 da manhã, era uma loucura. Três
é,
da manhã, na verdade, eram às 3 da manhã,
imagino.
e não dava, né? Era possível.
Mas, não, exatamente, pode rever a qualquer momento, rever mais que uma
Isso.
vez. O Daniel continua, sou compositor e professor. A Ana Célia me conhece, perfeito, trabalho com pesquisa
É,
tipo diferente de
claro.
IA, pesquisador na USP, na Unirio, professor na
O
UFSC.
Daniel, ele
Uau,
faz parte da nossa pesquisa, do Memocap.
perfeito,
O Daniel é sensacional, professor de música.
legal.
Ele é legal.
E como eu expliquei, já ah, anunciei, vai ser o Lidwin Pitomber que vai falar, que é professor de composição na Escola de Música, na pós-graduação da UFRJ. E, bom, e a maioria, quase todos os palestrantes lá no seminário não são músicos profissionais, mas são músicos também, mesmo assim não é a profissão, a atividade principal dela. Todo mundo está interessado em música. Então, muito obrigado e André, você pode fechar a
Isso.
sessão.
Jean-Pierre, depois a gente combina, tá? A nossa conversa para amanhã de tarde.
Vamos, porque acho que hoje já está aqui,
Você
está